This is the Dune Beach Finance Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025, 6 p.m. And I'll proceed with the, what did I do here? I'm so sorry. Lost my agenda. All right. So convene the meeting, Pledge of Allegiance. I knew that we did do that first. All right. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, do a quick roll call. Bernie Krause.
Bernie Krause.
John Gebhardt. There's online. Michael is, he can't make it today. Mike is there. Mark can't make it today, sorry. Vinny, I see on camera. Dominic is online.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep, Eric, I see you. Manuel, he said he was gonna make it, but I don't see him on there. And Zeke has jury duty, so, but that's all right, we have a quorum. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'm sorry for all the emails, but I'm glad we could make this happen. And now, if you had a chance to look at today's agenda that I was just fumbling for, could I have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, got the agenda. Did you all get a chance to look at the meeting minutes that Bernie put together from our March 12th meeting? I had a look and it looked like it captured everything. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes? Okay.
Since I wrote them, I shouldn't do.
Yeah, you should. I mean, if people haven't had a chance, maybe we can put them on the screen real quick and we can look at them if that's the kicker, or anyone? Bernie wrote the minutes, so he can't, and I can't make a motion because I'm the chair. So somebody could please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second? I can second it. I'm allowed to second it.
Yeah, I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. All right. Next, do we have any public comments?
No one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom. All right. So now we'll pursue our action items. As you recall, during our last meeting, we were talking about transferring funds, the operating funds from Brown Financial to Community Bank, and I was going to meet independently with Brown and talk to them, and also gather data. Have Sheena provide us with some information. I did talk to Brown, and what they said is that yes, we could get a higher return on investment, but really what would help them to get us more return would be if we could provide a time horizon for when we would need the money, because then they could take some different positions. However, when I talked about the horizon being that the thought was these might need to be used in the shorter term for the town hall project, their sense was if we're getting 4% now, we would be doing a lot of work to maybe get a little bit more, but probably more work than it was necessary. And so they concur that given that situation, that would be, a good thing for us to do. And that if we want to, improve our return on our funds, then, we could talk about the other in the longer term and talk about the other money in that context, if it makes sense. And then we also have here today community bank representatives, and if we have questions about their sweep account, we can ask them to answer us while we're here. I'll just open the, and I think that, that kind of, that's my report, and I think we can go into agenda item B, which is to discuss and possibly vote about the transfer issue. And so what I'd like to do is if the other members of the committee have questions and discussion, then let's go around the horn, and like I said, we could ask Community Bank about the sweep account as well. So,
Sorry I'm late.
that's all right. Welcome, Paul. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This I
Big
got-
weekend.
So can I make an opening statement?
Yeah,
before?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
just so from the town's perspective, with the new town hall that's being built, we asked Sheena to go back and look through all our funding that we have throughout the different accounts with the town hall. That would be the rainy day fund, the 90-day fund, and also the beach replenishment fund. Sheena was able to show the commissioners that there was approximately $1.4 million that we were able to use and move out of certain funds into another type of account, and at a later date, within a year or two, possibly if needed, use that for the new town hall. We explored what would happen if we moved that into one of the accounts with Community Bank, our current bank. We currently have President of Community Bank here tonight, Jack Riddle, and we have Senior Vice President, also from Community Bank, Chris Benjamin. After talking with them, Sheena and I discovered that we could make up to 4% on that 1.4%, approximately 1.4%, if we put it into one of the sweep accounts that they would provide to us. Sheena can provide how much money we've actually, in the last year, the difference if we'd have had it in a sweep account compared to where it is now with Brown Advisory. Sheena?
If the money had been in community, we'd have made roughly $57,000. We only made $27,000 with Brown, and we paid $4,000 in fees, which we wouldn't have paid.
There are no fees with Community Bank.
It's not much in the grand spectrum, but that's a lot.
It's better than a kick in the head.
It's a lot when we're looking at pennies for the town hall.
So thank you for your time and letting me do an opening statement on that.
No, I appreciate you clarifying that. Do we have any comments from any of the rest of the committee members?
No, clarifying question.
Last time we had confusion over what the interest rate is. Can you talk through how that actually works?
Yeah, thank you for going to the podium.
Sure. This is Jack Riddle, President of Community Bank. Yeah, the interest rate is technically variable. That's what it is. It's set at what we decide to set it at. In my conversations with the leadership of the town, what I shared with them is interest rates have fallen about 50 or 75 basis points in the last year, and we have not changed the rate because it's a relationship price thing. Now, can I guarantee that rate's going to stay there forever? I cannot do that, sir. I can't. But I can tell you there's been no discussion at any level in our organization about modifying that rate. Now, if we see a 100 basis point drop in the next, 6 months, yeah, that rate's going to fall. But everything else is going to fall as well. The account is totally liquid, and just for information, what the product we use to do this is a system called IntraFi, which is a multi-billion-dollar fund that allows the town to enjoy 100% FDIC-insured coverage on all the money in these sweep accounts. So by law, and I don't need to tell you the law because you know it, this is kind of required as you're a trustee of city funds. So that's how really it works, sir. Any more questions, Madam Chair? I'll be right there if there's more that comes up.
I do not. Anybody else has any questions?
I had a clarifying question on your meeting with Brown.
Yes.
Did I understand your summary correctly, where Brown basically said they can't help us and to go ahead and take that money and put it somewhere else?
They didn't say that they couldn't help us, but they didn't think that they could do much better on the interest rate that we were getting there because of because of our strategy, and our percentages. And so, and if we're going to use it short term, it's probably not that much different.
It seems to make a lot of sense to go with Community Bank where they have a
I mean, they've
history.
got the fees. Yeah.
Excuse me?
And the fees was the other thing. I'm sorry, I realized that was it. Yeah.
Right. And if I understand correctly, over the time that's has been analyzed, Community Bank has outperformed Brown Advisory on the cash side and no fees. And that makes a lot of sense to me. One thing that I may have heard, and I hope I didn't hear it, but you mentioned a bunch of different funds that could be used for the short-term funds related to the town hall. The beach replenishment fund.
No, not the beach.
Okay, I was a little concerned when that was mentioned that that would be a problem.
No, what I said was, Sheena went through all the different funds, beach replenishment, rainy day and 90 day. And then she discovered that there was this money that had been invested with Brown Advisory that
Right.
wasn't part of any of those three funds.
Okay.
By our general fund policy, we have to have so much in our rainy day, we have to have so much in our 90 day, and we cannot touch the beach replenishment fund.
Right. Thank you for the clarification.
So now I'm confused as well. So what is it that we're suggesting that we move to community? Which funds and what's the total we're suggesting we're moving?
There is go ahead, Sheena.
There is money that was set in Brown Advisory. It's when you look at the reports, it's last four digits are 8022. It is a short-term operating funds. They are originally were supposed to be part of the rainy day. They were not included in that. And it's roughly $1.4 million.
In fairness to them, we gave them the restrictions of what to leave in cash equivalents, and it makes sense to me, and I appreciate their honesty in saying that if we want quick access to that money, it doesn't make sense for them to manage it long term. But is our ultimate goal with this then just to put the $1.5 million in there, and then it's just going to be we're waiting for it to be tapped out in full for the project? And is that how that's going to work?
Yeah, if it's needed, we will draw on that money to pay for the town hall, police station, and paramedic station.
And if not, do we have or who's, I guess, just to make sure that, we're just not, are we tapping it out just because it can be, or that, is there a plan of what we're putting back, what's not used? And just wondering what that plan is.
I do believe that the commissioners are trying to use any available cash that we have before going to a loan. Since we are one of the few towns in this nation that is putting the future of the town under that yoke. And if there are any funds that are left, I'm sure they're going to very nicely invest again in the town and the future.
Great. And then had there been any other, not that this is under our purview necessarily, but have there been any other assessments or taxes raised for the building of this that they might be looking into reverse once, if we're able to fully fund it from this?
We have not raised any taxes.
No, the mayor and I have both worked very hard for this new town hall, police station, paramedic station. And I think you've heard before, we have $4 million in grants from the state community reinvestment fund and the state bond bill, that's $4 million, $1.5 million from Sussex County. And then we have about $2.4 million that the town has saved. And then we are looking at possibly borrowing some funds from Community Bank if needed. And then we also have this $1.4 million. Originally, the cost of the new town hall was $11.3 million when we put the bid out. That was the bid that was decided on by the commissioners and the company Costello to go with. Since then, we whittled that down below $10.5 million. The commissioners had changed some things about the building, and we reduced some other costs in the building. So now we're down to 10.5. So we feel with the $1.4 million, we may need that at the very end of this project.
That's great. And I assume we could just ask a community right here that we would obviously get a favorable loan status if they're holding some of these funds and on our behalf.
Yes.
Have you,
Great.
any discussions about a loan yet?
Yeah, the loan was discussed at the last commissioners meeting. It was voted on to use Community Bank. It would be a loan that would be broken down. I don't have it in front of me, but it was, I believe it was a 10, 15, or 20-year loan with the different rates, with borrowing up to $3 million. Now, if we went with $3 million at the rate that Community Bank projected it, our current hotel tax, what we bring in, would cover the amount of that loan over the next either 10, 15, or 20 years. So there would be no additional cost to the town as long as the hotels continue to have the same occupancy that they've had over the last 3 years.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Another question, I apologize, I'm just coming up to speed with this. But the money that we would be transferring to Community Bank, that, I guess that is not part of the rainy day fund, right?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that one is, we had a lot of discussion in a couple meetings. And we were working on the assumption it was, and when we found out it was not.
Fantastic, because I bet you there must be statutory requirements related to when we can tap the rainy day fund.
Right, but this 1.4 is not the rainy day.
Thank you.
But did I hear correctly that it was thought that it was originally intended to be part of the rainy day fund? Was that, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, back when I was on the investment committee, it was the beginning of the rainy day fund. That's what the dollars were put there for.
So we wouldn't want to move it to the rainy day fund because there are constraints on how that money can be used? Is that my understanding?
The rainy day fund is fully funded at this point with cash that we had readily available in our bank account.
What's the rate of return on where that money's invested now in the rainy day fund?
4%.
Same as a sweep account?
Yes, sir.
What are the constraints of how the rainy day fund can be used?
So the rainy day fund, under the general fund policy, can only be used for major expenses in town in times of emergencies. Again, I don't have the general fund policy in front of me, but if we had a major event in town and we needed to bring the cash, so for example, God forbid if we had another COVID type of event and parking and hotel went down. Parking is roughly $2 million of our budget in revenue. And if we lose some of the hotel, we would maybe have to make up some of that with the rainy day fund. But don't forget, we also have a 90-day fund, which is for short time type of emergencies that we can also draw from. So we really have two different funds. One's for major events and one's for short time events. The 90-day fund is the short time event, and the rainy day fund is the 50% of our operating budget fund. And we have to, by our general fund policy, continue to fund those up to those levels throughout the year, as of right now.
And so as you've defined what the rainy day fund can be used for, that covering a cost overrun on the town hall would not be a qualifying event to tap
No.
that fund.
Unless the commissioners voted on it, but that's not the way the general fund policy is written.
So is what we're trying to do here. So we found 1.4 million, and is what we're trying to do here is set it aside to cover the cost overrun of the town hall?
If we end up needing that funding, we would rather use the 1.4 million than borrow the full 3 million from Community Bank. Maybe then we only have to borrow 1.6 million from Community Bank, or maybe we only have to borrow 2 million from Community Bank. But we want to have access to that $1.4 million. And we want to have access and put it into an account like our other accounts that we're making close to 4% on.
One more clarifying question, if I may. Where the money is sitting right now, if you wanted to use it to pay for the town hall, could you?
It's just not as liquid. We can't just say, write a check out of it or transfer it into another account to, wire money or ACH money out to pay a bill with it overnight. We have to wait to get the money from Brown Advisory.
Now, I understand that they would need to
It's
make the assets liquid in order for you to use them but there's no constraints or any kind of restrictions or limitations on that 1.4 million in terms of how it can be spent by the town and who can authorize to spend it today. Is that correct?
Well, to bring it out of Brown Advisory, we'd have to come to this committee, and I think we'd have to go to the commissioners. And remember, there's no, with Community Bank, there would be no service fee either, whereas Brown Advisory, we're paying a service fee.
If you move the money to community, do those same oversight caveats still exist, or would you be able to just tap it at your discretion?
So if the commissioners voted that money could be used for the town hall when needed, then we would tap it when it needed to be used.
I don't think it's it's gonna be in its own account at Community Bank, and I don't see that it's any different to get it out of that pot or get it out if it was at Brown. It's the same.
That's not what I heard.
It becomes part of the funds that are allocated towards the town hall, which all expenses are approved by the town manager, the mayor, all the expenses for the town hall have already been approved by the commissioners. So they have, it's strictly for the use of the town hall. And since we have grant funds that we have to use, I'm using the same tracking methods with our regular funds as I will with the grant funds, so it'll be easy to see what money is going strictly to the town hall. And we have a town hall account set up separate from the grant accounts or our operating account.
So would this money go then into the town, under the town hall umbrella or someplace else?
It's all under the town hall umbrella because of government accounting. It all falls under general operating. We're not a enterprise fund or anything like that. However, we have a separate bank account that is entitled Town Hall that has the money we have set aside. That is not grant funds because they have their own bank accounts. Any donations it's for any donations that are made, any savings we have, anything strictly for the town hall.
And then this 1.4, because maybe I misspoke, well, is that gonna go into that bank account, or will that go into a separate line item account, and then you could pull it over there as you need it, but not necessarily take it all?
It will go into that bank account and be tracked like everything else, and I'm positive that if there is money left over at the end, the commissioners are gonna wanna invest it very nicely.
Yeah.
But what you're asking us to approve is taking $1.4 million out of Brown and earmarking it for town hall.
The commissioners have
Already did that.
already done that.
And the argument I'm hearing made is, well, we've met the percentage of what our rainy day fund is. So since we've met that, we don't have to keep this money that was initially intended for the rainy day fund, because we have satisfied what the minimum for the rainy day fund is. We don't need to keep it there. And then we're going to put it over into community and direct it to be part of the city hall fund.
Correct, making a higher percentage return and no fees.
Right. Well, I understand that. I understand the advantages of going with community bank. I'm just kind of like Eric. I'm kind of hearing that that this, at first it sounded like it would go into community bank and be there for, operations if badly needed. But what I think we're hearing now is that basically it would go into the city hall fund.
That is what the commissioners had made the decision, and the other option is we leave it where it is and we take out a $3 million loan instead of $1.5 million loan.
Actually, you could still use the money,
Yeah.
so
What-
it wouldn't be that.
So maybe would it help, could you tell us, so we found the 1.4 million, but found is a funny term, right? So, but where, what is it surpluses from other budget years? Is it money that we got from the Hyatt
It is money that was set aside years ago with the intention of being a rainy day fund.
No, I think the question is, where did the new funds come from, for the new rainy day fund?
Just excess of.
So that's in the budget, so, because in the budget, remember, we set it aside as part of the budget, so.
But that's clarification for everybody. I know what it is, you know what it is. I'm just making sure, right?
Before Mr. Zolper brought me more active into this, I was not informed, not understanding that the money was supposed to be for the rainy day that was in Brown Advisory, because that was there before I started here 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And rainy day fund, okay, you've got this money that's excess from transfer tax and other monies over the past couple years, boom, that's your rainy day fund. And the Brown Advisory money, because of the way it is classified as an investment in government accounting, it does not show in your everyday operating money. You only see it at the end of the year with the audit because it is an investment. And you do not look at investment money in your general operating. So that's how, when I proved it out, we have this money. It's just showing as an investment instead of operating cash.
Yeah, I just to clarify with a little bit of history too, because I first started back on the investment committee a while back, and it was just a certain percentage that was allocated to be in the short-term cash to help with towards the rainy day fund and whatnot. And again, we were just brought on to be stewards to make sure that this money was well invested, and that I understand the concerns of the other committee members of making sure that things are not commingled. Fortunately, there's been such a great returns on all these monies that the initial percentage that was set aside to be in short-term cash, when you take a percentage of the overall portfolio, was more so than the rainy day fund. And we've got this excess of over $1 million now as a result. And even though I don't necessarily feel terribly comfortable with it, what it has to, the money needs to go, or what should be done with it. It's not up to us. It's up to the commissioners. It's their ultimate, in their thought process. I understand where they're going from. They're saying, we don't want to take out a loan. We need a new hall. We need these new capital improvements. Why should we borrow money to do that when we've got cash to be able to do it and not put us into debt? So I feel, a little personally hurt. We've taken this thing, we've grown it so well. But at the end of the day, what's it for? It's to, help with the long-term investments. And that's what the commissioners have thought would be the best use of it. And
What is our current amount on the rainy day fund and where is that kept?
It is 2.9 million. It is sitting in our bank account with Community Bank, making 4%.
In a separate account?
Right now, it's all in the one, it's in our general operating account, but it is earmarked separately. It is not a generally good recommended practice to have separate accounts for every single allocation. If the commissioners wanted us to, we could, but it is not a generally recommended practice, so it is not done at this time.
You're using sub-accounts.
Yes.
That is the recommended practice.
Okay, so you would have a sub-account that you would be, you have the town hall sub-account like the other
The
things.
town hall bank, there is a grant account for grant 1, there's one for grant 2, because we have to track those specifically. The mayor asked that we set up a separate bank account just for the town hall savings, donations, anything like that. That is set up. Those 3 are separate from our operating account, which is where our rainy day fund and general operating is. However, it is through fund balance, through fund allocation, it is, the rainy day fund is segregated accounting, in the accounting.
So Paul, I guess a question for you. So the commissioners have said that they want to take $1.4 million that's currently sitting in an investment account, and they want to make those funds available as they see fit, as you see fit, to be able to address cost overruns on the town hall or whatever. I'm not going to get into all that, but the need for additional funding for the town hall, that's been decided. That's not debated here, not within our purview. The commissioners have decided that that's what they want to do.
Right. We have a fund policy that per our audits, we have to conform to, correct?
Yes.
So as long as we're within our, what our fund policies are, when we have an unassigned account, what's it for?
Well, I guess what it's for is when we become out of compliance.
Right. But we're not out
Right.
of compliance, right?
But we're betting, we're standing at the crap table betting the line, right? That we're going to continue to be able to be in compliance. That's the dice we're rolling.
Right.
Okay.
So, the other side of this thing is, do we borrow money or use the money that we've saved? So it's like any human being would do on buying a house. Do I borrow
So we know
money
we're going to
or
have
use
to
it for
borrow
down
money.
payment?
So the commissioners,
Well,
we know we have to borrow money to
We
complete
don't
the
know
work.
that. We don't know.
Okay.
It's,
Sorry.
if you're going to look at it from a bet, do jobs come in under budget or sometimes go over budget? I think I'd bet
Every
the
day.
over on it, right? So,
I'll take the over on that all day with
but
you,
we
sir.
want to be prepared that, if it's going to go over, we're not scrambling to pay the bills at that point, especially when you got 1.4 million sitting here. We don't know what it's for. It's an unassigned account. So, we already funded, you can't fund the rainy day fund twice. You fund it according to your policy, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm just, looking down the road a year,
Right.
and do we really think that we're going to be in that as good a shape and we're going to be able to meet our commitments for the other funds. And we can't, and what we're talking about doing here, I don't understand how we can claw that money back if we need to actually operate the town as opposed to completing a new construction project.
Right.
Because it sounds like once it goes, it's gone. We can't claw it back to do anything else with it.
Right. But if we have a line of credit that we don't use, you could use your line of credit. Essentially, you could do it now, you could do it later, you could do it never.
And really, from this committee's perspective, that question's moot because that decision's been made.
Right.
Understood. Okay, I understand.
Well, can I ask another hypothetical question though along that line is, we are setting up the loan from Community Bank that we can borrow up to, and we would draw against that as we need it. I mean, if we had some trouble down the line, then we could always stop spending this money and switch over and go more heavily on the loan. I mean, I feel like we would have levers to pull if we were getting a surprise.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Wait, a minute. That's not what I'm hearing, what people are saying.
No, I didn't hear that either. I heard something different.
Yeah, what I hear people saying is they have carved out a chunk of money that is now a rainy day fund. Now, one of the issues that we've had over the years, both from the investment committee and the combined committees, is the fact that no one told us until 2 meetings ago. Now we found out, oh, there's another rainy day fund. That's just communications, that's corrected. But the money that you're taking, the commissioners have said, wherever it's coming from, it's going to be used for the town hall,
That's correct.
period. That means all the rest of the money has to be managed the same way it's being managed today. Separate, the 90-day fund, the rainy day fund, that, and the regular operational budget. This is just a different spend line.
Well, we have the rainy day fund, right? If something
Yeah.
happens badly, then we can
Exactly.
protect ourselves.
Rainy
that way.
day's not going away. The 90 days not going away. We're going to be consistent with our fund policy. We're trying to get, you maximize the use of the dollars that we have instead of giving it to, no offense, Jack Riddle, but we love giving you money, but if we don't have to, we won't.
Right, do we have any more discussion?
I just want to make sure we're clear. The commissioners have decided that found 1.4 million is to be used for additional funding for the town hall. That decision has been made, and any debate around that is moot. And
Which meeting was that in,
not
Bill?
even really in our purview.
Yeah, Bill, what meeting was that in? Is that two months ago?
April, March, either February or March, that meeting we had where we laid out all the funding streams that we currently have. Sheena and Commissioner Persinger together worked on basically saying that $1.4 million is not part of the rainy day fund, that it's actually separate from it and that it could be used for the town hall. Commissioner Persinger agreed with that, and then the commissioners decided that the $1.4 million could be used for the new town hall.
So what we're being asked is, that decision's already been made. We're being asked to put it somewhere where, number one, it's going to make a little bit more, and number two, it's going to be in a much more liquid form, so that if and when the commissioners decide they need to tap it, there won't be a delay. We're really being asked to facilitate those two things,
Yes.
or enable
Yes.
those two things.
That's correct.
Thank you for the clarification.
When I do appreciate all the explanation, I think it's been complicated, and I think a big learning curve certainly for me, and sounds like a lot of the others just sorting all this out, because,
The only thing that gets me is we could have used a whole different strategy for that money. We were told, be super conservative, you cannot lose that money, but that's a lesson learned.
Well, I guess, I mean, if there's no further discussion on this, the commissioners would like for us to recommend to them that we move the money to the community bank account or not. But we need to kind of, to close this out. It's been lingering on our plate for a while. We didn't have a quorum the first time with data gathering, and so we really, need to just make a decision, a recommendation one way or another. And I feel like we've discussed this adequately, unless there's any more.
I mean, I would move that we do that, but is it possible to do it, some sort of, I know you guys are mentioning that it's going to be accounted for, and who's going to be accounting for it? Whoever's doing the accounting for that, do they even have can we even ask that it be reported back to us, or is it just going to be going back to a town manager, I guess, is going to be overseeing that, and who's overseeing that? If there's it ends up being in excess of 400,000, that is that just going to go into the slush fund for the city, or is it going to go back to being invested?
That would be up to the commissioners.
So it's strictly up to so can we maybe set a date that the commissioners make a decision on what happens with the rest of that, just so that there's closure to it and we're able to revisit it at some point?
Yeah, so phase one of the project, which is the police station, the town hall, the Alderman Court, and the parking enforcement office, is scheduled for 430 days. They broke ground last week, so.
So that's phase one, and are there
Yeah.
3 phases in the project, or?
2, and then
Two,
phase
okay.
phase 2 is the paramedic station, in the garages, and that's 170 days after the 143 days. So
Can we ask,
Yeah.
then maybe could we ask that just the accounting of that at the end of each of those phases gets reported out either publicly or back to us, or I don't know, do we have the right to do that, or it's made public in some way at least?
Yeah, you can ask, and Sheena and I would have to provide that back to you. And Sheena provides monthly financials every month in our commissioners' meetings, and they are posted online also. But we'll be more than happy to come back to the finance committee and also provide those numbers.
Okay, well, then I'd like to propose that we go ahead and move the funds to community with the caveat that we have the summary financials reported back to us at the end of each phase, if that's okay.
And could we also, sorry, and maybe it's a separate thing, but I also think that, if there should probably be, if there is a significant, change to the interest rate, things beyond our control, then, is there a way to then, move some money back or do something else if it comes to it? Or are we just gonna?
Well, but that money's no longer our purview. It's in the town operating. Once it goes, it's gone. That's
So
up
then
to the town.
but maybe we just, then maybe we just recommend that the commissioners pay attention to that, so that they could decide to do something else.
Although I'm new to the committee, that decision, the decision with regard to the 1.4 that was initially allocated for the rainy day to put in the operating and then into the town hall, I would have hoped that would have been something that the finance committee would have been able to at least advise the commissioners on. I think what we're doing today is minuscule. What we're saying is, okay, yeah, community bank is, sure, give it to them. They've done well with this. It'll be available in our operating, this is kind of a nuts and bolts question that you're asking the finance committee. I would have hoped that the commission would have asked for our input related to how and where to move this money and what was appropriate to do. That's my problem. I mean, if it's I have no problem going to community bank. I do have a problem with how this money is being quantified and considered. But that's moot for us. I'm just saying I had that reservation.
We have a motion on the table.
Yeah. Do you need a second? And then there needs to be some discussion.
Yeah, so we have, okay, so I think Paul is here and is our liaison to the town council. I think he can relay the concerns. But yeah, we do have the motion to move the funds to Community Bank for the town hall on the floor. And if we could have a second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
So,
I
does there need to be discussion first, Kate?
We can open it for discussion.
Oh, do we have any discussion on the motion?
Repeat the motion, please.
Repeat the motion. So it's-
Propose we move the funds to community bank, report back at end of each phase, the status of the money.
Do we need to specify that at the commissioner's request, it is being moved to the general operating expense of the town?
It's not general operating.
Can you say again, please?
I'm asking if we need to, as part of the motion, note that that it is being moved to the town operating expense fund at the commissioner's request.
So Sheena, where is it gonna be moved?
It's going to the town hall bank account. It is not going into general operating. It's strictly for the town hall.
Okay. Okay, so propose we move the funds to the town hall bank account and report back at the end of each of these two phases. We probably should. There's the vote, it's proposed, now we have to second it again, I think.
Yes. Yeah, there any further discussion?
that's not what I at least heard Eric's concern was.
Well, his concern is, do we have to put as part of a motion at the request? The notes are going to reflect that. The minutes of the meeting reflect the fact that we've discussed several times, February, March timeframe, they said move it to here. So it's in the meeting notes. But the question I think what you're saying is, do we need to include in the motion, at the request of the commissioners, we're moving the money over? Could we,
And where we're moving it to.
well, that's the town hall bank account.
It's fine. So the motion, as I understand it, is at the commissioner's request, we are agreeing to move the money from the investment account at Brown to whatever the name of this bank account is that Sheena just mentioned.
Town hall and public safety building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So whoever originally made the motion can say they will amend to include that. So who originally made the motion?
Was it Mike,
Like,
right?
Mike Schaefer.
so you can just ask if
So
Mike
you
agrees
agree to all these
that
amendments,
amendment.
Mike? I say, Mike, do you agree to all these amendments to your motion?
Yes. Yes, I do.
All right, do we have a second?
Second again.
All right, now we're gonna vote. All those in favor?
I
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
All right. Our next agenda item is to review the most recent Brown advisory reports. Unfortunately, they were waiting to, so we had asked them about, we'd asked them how other municipalities and these kinds of restricted funds and what their performance has been. So, and I sent pretty late this afternoon, they had sent me that information. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at that or not.
Is that different from what's posted? Or is that what is posted?
Kate, I'm not sure if you got the email that I sent later this afternoon, to check if that was posted, but,
I got an email, but it wasn't any like reports or anything that needed to be posted, not that I was CC'd.
uh-oh.
Oh, I received it. 2:25.
I received it as well.
Oh, gosh, you know what, I don't think I put, all right, I am so sorry, Kate, I did not. All right. I will send that to you right now. I sent it to, I was busy making sure I didn't clutter up Suzanne's inbox, and then, all right.
What is this document?
This is their latest, thank you so much for coming. This is
Thank you,
their,
Jack.
their most recent financials as of the end of April. And what they have, it shows what their performance is, and then there's also a section in the back that talks about other performance of other institutions similar to ours. And so you can you can see the returns that they have, and then and sort of, you know, what our performance has been as compared to some of those as well. So and I think, you know, I think it's hard to have a discussion about that with this late arrival. I know the commissioners are going to be talking about this. I believe you have that on your agenda this next Friday, Paul, is that correct?
Next Friday, correct.
So, you know, I'm not sure there's much we can recommend necessarily about this report now, but if anyone has had a chance to look at it and would like to talk about it, I think also from my discussion with them, you know, they could recommend to us other, you know, investment strategies for the longer term funds that we have, that might, you know, have a little bit more risk, but we could look at and consider. The other thing too is we've had the same financial advisory forum for a long time. So, you know, if we think we could do better, we're not happy with it. There's also, you know, the opportunity if we wanted to even, you know, do an RFP and talk to some other financial firms as well. That's something we could do. So I think that's just something going forward. You know, we could talk about that. So,
Iris, I think we made the request also that Brown provides some comparable performance metrics.
yes, and that's at the end of this presentation that they sent.
Oh, so that's part of the email that you received.
It's in that PDF, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to see, and I mean, you know, honestly, I did not have a lot of time to look at it either because of I got it, and I'm disappointed because I asked them, you know, to do some things after I spoke with them, and then, you know, when I said where is it, then suddenly they scrambled to put something together. So so unfortunately, it's, you know, pretty late breaking news for all of us.
Well, what do we have to provide the commissioners for Friday? Let's kind of reverse engineer this.
Yeah, well, so for the commissioners, you know, if we want to change the investment strategy or investment group, then that's a recommendation that we can make to them.
I won't speak for everyone, but I think we need to discuss it more to find out what are the different options?
Yes,
Because things are a little shaky right now.
Yeah.
And, but it goes back to one thing I said earlier in the meeting, we didn't communicate this, we kept the monies, some of our monies that we thought had to be in treasuries only. So we just need to understand more of what it's allowed to, and then go forward, recommendation.
yeah. And there's things that we are allowed to do as a committee and things that the commissioners have to approve as well. And I guess the question is also, you know, we are, and I am not an investment expert. I'm just gonna say that right now, you guys probably figure that out. So, you know, for me, we're listening to one opinion, and, you know, one group's opinion, and I guess, you know, and I know what I have my own investments in, I'm not, but, you know, is there, you know, do we ask Brown to come back and say, okay, we're in a volatile environment right now. So, you know, what is their recommendation for maximizing our income? And do we need to change anything based on what's happening now?
You know,
Right?
I've got to say, we've been, from the very beginning, we've been, we sort of hamstrung Brown. They've done, I think, a very good job with what we had is very strict and safe guidelines for them, really. I mean, we're stewards of the town's funds. We've said, you know, you've got to keep really a large percentage of this in fixed and cash investments. They continually come back to us and asked, you know, if there's an opportunity to, you know, grow in different ways. And we've sort of been, you know, restricted by what the commissioners have outlined for what we can do as an investment committee. So maybe what the investment committee needs to do is get back together and come back to the commissioners with maybe what we would think might be best for the town long term, and then convey that to Brown or whoever else. Because although I've been very happy with how they've been, you know, managing stuff, it is only reasonable that we reevaluate things on a you know, every X number of years. So I think it's something for the investment committee to take back to themselves and come up with recommendations to the commissioners about this.
You know, and what I would love is that you know, a lot of you have the history from the finance committee and also have a stronger, you know, finance and investment background. And I'm wondering if, you know, if there's somebody on the committee that might want to take an action to help guide that discussion that could be better at it than me. I'm more of a, you know, budget and profit and loss expertise personally.
I thought Mike just volunteered.
I saw him shaking his head, so.
Sure.
I mean, I agree with what Mike said. I think the time is much better spent looking at the investment policy itself and maybe modernizing it or updating it, you know, based on the kind of changing landscape overall, you know, and then you can take that. I also agree with Mike's assessment that I think Brown's done a very good job given the handcuffs we've put on them. And I'm not sure anybody else would have done any better, but also agree with Mike that I think from a fiduciary oversight responsibility, you know, you got to go shop it periodically, regardless.
Well, and I think, you know, it's a matter of, you know, whether stuff is fixed income or cash, you know, the rates have gone, it kind of fluctuates what does better, and is there a way to more dynamically maximize within those sort of safe parts of the portfolio? And would that matter? I don't know. And am I saying something that I don't know what I'm talking about? It could also be true.
No. I think it's good. No, absolutely. But it's all, again, they've come to us multiple times asking what they can do. And we're saying we need to be good fiscal stewards of these funds. And, we're held, by, we need to be treated like we're telling them to treat us like a 95-year-olds, and managing their investments, not the way I'm treating my 15-year-olds, funds which are being invested. different ways of looking at things, and we might, I think we need to maybe, now that we've gotten to a point, when I first started, we were a lot closer to 1 million in total funds that were being invested. We've become very healthy. Now maybe there's a different way of looking at things, especially like you mentioned, because we're in incredible shape compared to other towns in the state. And that's a great thing. We still want to be good stewards of the monies, and I think maybe it's up to us to come up with a recommendation to the council.
Well, and what Brown told me is that, if we could, help them sort of, and again, this is, all made up, but if we could postulate sort of how much money we would need, how soon, like it's, their investment strategy is different if you say, I need to be able to have $5 million in a month, or if I said I need $1 million every 6 months or whatever, because there's investments that they could ladder and things like that, like my condo association does, that I don't think that they do. And so, so we might be able to do a little bit better without taking on a lot more risk, where the risk might be in being a little less liquid.
Absolutely.
Beach funds.
Yes. That's the beach fund, which we've never used.
Right.
And again, if we had to use the beach fund, how fast would we need it? And nobody has that crystal ball, but I think that's one of the things that was a question that they asked.
Bill, do you know how long, for example, what's the preparation work that goes into when the Corps of Engineers come and say, okay, how much kind of lead time before they say, we're gonna be doing your beach again?
So we met with the Corps of Engineers in January,
Yeah.
and they've decided at that point in January that they would be replenishing the beach next winter.
Okay. So like a 2-year time frame?
Yes, and the federal government now picks up, thanks to Senator Carper, federal government will pick up 80% of that beach replenishment. DENREC now picks up 20% of that.
We should note that that's the current plan of record, subject to change on the federal government side.
Yeah, everything's subject to change, sure. That's right. Before it was, federal government was only giving 70%, and DENREC was doing 30, and then Senator Carper changed it to 80-20.
And how much does a beach replenishment cycle cost?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I don't. I just know Rehoboth and Dewey are scheduled for this coming, the following winter. Yeah.
But that'd be an interesting data point, because certainly if there's, if we looked at, okay, what might we need 2 years from now, whatever, we might be able to put some balance on it.
The fact that we have a beach replenishment fund that's actually laid out for beach replenishment. Lewis is now starting, and they're looking at a resiliency fund. In our current climate committee, the town of Dewey's current climate committee is also discussing a type of resiliency fund. They're just discussing it at this point.
Right, so I don't think we have any more, I don't know if we have any specific feedback or recommendations for the commissioners, except for maybe Paul to take back that we're gonna, look at potential changes to the investment strategy. And I'm happy to facilitate a meeting with Brown, and I just want some besides me, and we can have a, sort of a sidebar with them and some back and forth, and if you want to, we can do that together. And then come back at our next meeting.
I would like to hear from them where they would suggest or what changes they would suggest in the current investment strategy as written that would preserve the, sorry, I apologize for speaking off camera, that would preserve the conservative approach, which is proper, but take advantage of some of the new investment instruments that have been introduced over time and some of the other ways to be safe. I mean, they are, you know, along with my, you know, the subject matter experts. So
Well, I mean, we could also invite them to come to a committee meeting again if we want to do that.
So what are the other options? Would be a workshop?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Bauer could discuss that with the commissioners. But during a workshop, that would be a good exchange of information between the Finance Committee and the commissioners.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I agree.
But one in January could be.
Yeah, well, like we did, I mean, and I think, yeah. Well, and that would put Mike off the hook of an independent project. Now, is this something, do we need to have a motion to make a recommendation, or is it really, this is not a policy, but this is Paul going back to, you know, when you go back to the commissioners, you can say that we want to set that up.
Right. I mean, I think what your motion would be is a motion to set up a workshop with.
No, we don't need a
Brian.
motion. Kate says we don't need one.
What we were voting on here.
Yeah,
This was for changes to the investment portfolio.
That's
If we
right.
want to arrange a workshop, we'll do that after we're done.
perfect. Awesome.
Thanks.
That's what I thought. Thank you for that. Okay. All right, so that's a great idea. Thank you for that suggestion. And then now we're down to reviewing and discussing the town monthly financial reports. And maybe, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look this up, but if you just give us the high points of how we're doing so far this year and.
I'm right now working on the last bits to close,
All right.
last year, but, we looked like we had about 400,000 to the good at the end of the year. With a lot of things being able to be funded with grants.
Great.
Quite a bit. The transfer tax for this year, I haven't gotten the April numbers yet. I haven't gotten those yet. But so far, you know, we're just going through, business licenses and rental licenses are coming in, you know, very nicely, and parking permits are being bought on a very regular basis.
So we'll get it, probably next month we'll have a better sense of where we are compared to last year for some of those big line items, right?
Yeah, I'll, by next Friday, I'm supposed to have the April done. Is it next Friday? This Friday.
This Friday, we need to have it done for the meeting next Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I can say for transfer tax, we budgeted $750,000 and we came in over $1 million.
That's great.
So I mean, we always go, Sheena always goes on the very conservative side where she projects what she thinks we're gonna bring in rental, transfer, and parking. The only one this year that I'm aware of, besides hotel, that we were down was parking was just about on the number that we wanted. Transfer tax performed much better than we thought. But hotel was actually down just a little bit. And we'll have those because we have to get everything ready for our audit. We had a meeting with the auditors last week, but we're getting ready for that.
Great. All right. Any questions or discussion on that topic from anyone? All right. Well, now now I want to go around the room and for any commissioner comments beyond what we've talked about already. Anybody on the phone have anything to bring up? Bernie, anything from you?
Any public comment?
I will just bring up, I had a conversation with John Gebhardt since our last meeting, and a suggestion that he made and we talked about was maybe also doing a workshop, either ourselves or I don't maybe with the commissioners, but over the summer and before we get into, or maybe like towards the end of summer before we really get in the throes of budget, to like a revenue workshop and a cost workshop, and maybe we can do some analysis of where we are and what the trends are, and start looking at some of those things earlier. Because if you remember this year, we merged the committees in October, and then by the time we really started meeting, it was December. We were in the throes of it, and we were kind of behind the curve on the budget. So if we try to do something earlier, even in September, we'll be ahead of where we were. And we can maybe really look at some more what ifs and some trends and things like that, and see what we can do to help the commissioners instead of just really being reactive and learning things, because it's at the end. And so I would just pass that on to you, Paul, and if the commissioners are interested in doing that, either having us do it independently or doing something together, maybe it's not some, all day thing, but, something we could do,
Okay.
in combination with a regular meeting. The other thing I would say is I've started going to the commissioners' meetings because I do learn there a lot of what they're thinking and planning, and I missed, I think, the one where they actually talked about this particular issue, but I would recommend if you're available on a Friday to just even dial in and listen. It's provides good context, and they record all the meetings.
I do have a quick question on that, and it goes back to what the purpose and remit of the committee is. I'm used to on these. You mentioned a cost workshop. I don't find that to be a strategic use of the committee. That is tactical stuff. The town manager and those guys live and breathe that stuff. I don't know. Questioning them on how much we should pay police officers or this or that. I don't get that. That's what we should be doing. The
My
revenue workshop.
suggestion, sorry.
The revenue workshop. I'm very much for.
That's what I
that is
suggested.
strategic. Yeah, I figured, John. I appreciate you validating that. That is strategic.
Yes.
And we've been asked every year that I've been involved in this from the town. It's like, y'all need to help us come up with some creative ways of getting some money, given how handcuffed and constrained we are based on how the town is set up. That to me is very much of value. Questioning them about, do you need this truck or not? That doesn't appeal to me very much.
Exactly.
No, and I really wasn't thinking about it from that perspective. I think it's more the trend analysis of, we're paying our people less than some of our other things. We have a police contract coming up in a couple of years, things like that, which are strategic of, we're going to have to plan for increases we're going to have, and that has nothing to do with how the town is managing our money. They're doing a great job with it, but there are realities of inflation and contracts and being competitive with other jurisdictions that we can't hide our head in the sand about. So it's more of that saying, okay, what do we see as the cost, the inflation trend line, if you will, from those sorts of things. Again,
that's
not
fair
micromanaging.
play.
Yeah.
That's fair play. In other words, if the town comes to us and says, look, we think that our costs are, next year are going to, we know, because we're going to have to renegotiate this, do this, we know that our costs are going to, we're going to need to find another $1 million. I'm making the number up, and then, if that's our go get, then that gives us some focus on the revenue side to help out with. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And so maybe it's not two different things, but it's two different sort of analysis projects, if you will, because there is, we can keep looking at stuff on an annual basis, and then, but it's really, what is that big picture, and what is the sort of the likely scenarios and not of cost, like And I think,
One other part is, remember the last meeting you guys mentioned, we're gonna have, in a year or so, we're gonna have to start considering capital budget. So there's a whole new budget line you gotta worry about.
and what if we have a resiliency fund? I mean, it's all that stuff. I think it's just, you know, it's, how do we have a longer plan? What's that longer planning horizon?
Making sure that we have enough revenue for the demands of keeping competitive salaries, you know, things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, any other comments? All right, thank you all very much. I know it's been late. Thank you, Sheena. I know you've been trying to do payroll and you've had a very torturing week and keeping Kate late also and Bill, so thanks so much. And,
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
well, you've been wanting to move that since we got here.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you,
for your
everyone.
time.
Appreciate the feedback.
Yep.